Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. It's Wednesday and it's time for Live with Nana. So I hope y'all are doing amazing today. If you're joining live, definitely pop in the comments, say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Um, Today, oh, and let me introduce myself. Sometimes I forget to do that because I'll be like, oh, you know me, we be here all the time. Um, if you are returning, you're always kicking it with me. I appreciate you and thank you for always joining and watching and tuning in and commenting. And hopefully, the information I share is helpful and valuable to you as you think about your style and your image. And so, I'm Nana Badu. I'm an image consultant and speaker, and I talk about all things related to style, confidence, and authenticity in the workplace. And today, we are diving into what I call 4 key things that you should keep in mind as you are thinking about building your personal brand. And as an image consultant, one of the dopest things that I learned about when I got my certification at FIT, maybe about, like, I don't know, about maybe 6 years ago now, um, were 4 things called the ABCDs. And I'm going to break down what the ABCDs are and how you should be thinking about them and keeping them in mind when you're building your personal brand. So, listen, it goes without saying. By now, if you don't know how important a personal brand is to your career, honey, you need to Google it and see all the data, okay? And really, you need to just peep game to the people around your office who are successful, around your company, your organization, people who you admire, and actually observe what it is that they are doing in their career to achieve certain milestones or be in a position of impact or influence in a way that inspires you. And again, observe, watch, take note, okay, of the different moves they're making, how they're positioning themselves, how they are presenting themselves, what it is about them that's memorable to you, what is it about them that's unique and special, right? How do they share their story? Like, your brand is your calling card. It's how people remember you. It's you. It is literally you, and it's you owning everything that is special and unique to you and doing your best to showcase it. So oftentimes when you're building your personal brand, I like to think about it in 2 different buckets: performance and presence. Performance on paper, the work, the timeliness, the respect, the getting it done at the top of your game, right? All the credentials, the experience, the know-how, putting it out there, and everyone's like, ooh, she's that girl. Okay. Your presence can sometimes be a more muffled space. And that's the area that we're going to talk a little bit more about as it pertains to your image. So, your presence is really about, again, it's about you. And it's about you showcasing your level of confidence and awareness about who you are. And what are some of the outward cues that you are translating and that you are communicating to others about who you are. So let's think about this in terms of those 4 ABCDs, those key components that I mentioned a little earlier. So the ABCDs of image are appearance, what I like to say body language, others might say behavior, but I think it's more about body language, communication, and digital presence. So your appearance, body language, communication, and digital presence. These are 4 things that I want you to be thinking about when you're thinking about building your personal brand, in particular as it relates to your image. And when you're thinking about your image, this is something that is a cohesive piece All right. Sometimes when we think about our image, we can immediately just go into the physical and it's just like, oh, the clothing, like the style, your hair, your grooming, your makeup, your nails, all those different elements. And those are absolutely important. Okay. And those play a role. There are other pieces to having a really cohesive image as well that you want to keep in mind. Okay. And that's that body language, communication, and digital presence piece that we're going to talk about. So, you want to be cohesive and consistent about how you are showing up in these 4 areas. And as we go through these 4 spaces, I just simply want you to give yourself a stoplight assessment. All right. This is something that I do with my clients in different workshops and trainings that I offer. So it's a simple stoplight assessment. You're going to do a red, yellow, green. Red, hold on May Day. You're like, I am not doing this well. This actually might even be something that on your performance evaluations, these might be things that have come up as spaces where that some improvement is needed, or if you're soliciting some feedback from coworkers or managers or friends or people who you trust, this might be some feedback that they've given you that's an area of improvement for you. Yellow, you're working on it, but it could be better, right? You know that there are some things that maybe you've already put in place to help strengthen this area of your image and brand. And then, of course, green is all systems go, you're crushing it. Okay, so give yourself a red, yellow, green rating. So your appearance, right? This one is very straightforward, but a space that sometimes people don't know how to elevate it and take it to the next level. But this is everything. And what I like to call the cab. These are your clothes, your accessories, your beauty, right? So it is what's in your wardrobe, your jewelry, all those elements. But it's also to your beauty and your grooming. Okay, so this goes from everything from your skincare, your makeup, your nails, your hygiene. This is all those pieces, okay? I know hygiene is a sticky component sometimes, and HR folks are like, it's one of those uncomfortable topics, but sometimes it needs to happen. But your appearance is all of those elements, okay? And what's really happening when you're thinking about your appearance as it relates to your personal brand is that you want to figure out how it's going to be memorable, right? You want to be very intentional about what you're wearing in spaces, especially when there's possibilities to network and connect with potential clients or be talking with executives or VPs at your organization. And you want to make a great impression. You want them to think about you when it's promotion time or think about you for the next important opportunity, right? Yes, let's get I'm giving you the preview for sure, Portia. Okay. Like every now and then, you gotta go behind the curtain. All right. So when you're thinking about your appearance, especially as you think about your brand and building a really memorable and impactful one, I think this is something that oftentimes when people are thinking about their brand, they think about it too late. So when you are a new hire or a junior associate, right, and you're like 1 to 3 years into your career in space, you're not thinking about the next 10 to 20. Your ability to think long term, sometimes you just wrapped up right here and just like, I'm just trying to get to work on time, right? Like I'm just trying to make sure I get my work complete at the same time. I'm trying to make sure I can get along with my coworkers and my boss. All things true. Also, you need to be more cemented in understanding what your skill sets are and what your strengths are that differentiate yourself from your peers. And the more you lean into that, knowing that and understanding that, the more clear you're going to be about beginning to create your brand and knowing the things that you are strong in and being 10 toes deep in it. So when you're thinking about your wardrobe, you want to start to be, as they say, you are starting to dress now for the role that you desire, for the identity of the woman you're growing into. So if you got your eyes set on the C-suite Ma'am, start embracing that today. Okay, now I understand you'll be like, nah, I ain't got no C-suite money, girl. I ain't got no C-suite money. That's okay. All right. I understand. But you can begin to make some small changes. Okay. You might be getting your suit and you're like, you know what? I've never worked with a tailor, but I need to invest in a tailor and make that small key change to the fit so that my clothes are fitting more crisp. Or instead of just going for quantity over quality and shopping on everything on Fashion Nova and Zara, you're going to save your coins and you're going to make a solid investment in an amazing suit from Veronica Beard. Hello. Okay. So you're going to begin to start thinking more strategically and be making more long-term choices about your wardrobe and your appearance that you know are going to just elevate the bar, right? You want to begin to elevate things. Okay. So that's the biggest thing that I see folks miss out on when it comes to their appearance and their brand. Like as your career starts to grow and you start to get more recognition or more visibility, like that's when all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, my clothes, it doesn't reflect who I am. And now I have to be flown around to represent the company. And now I just got promoted to partner. And then all of a sudden you trying to play catch up. You're like, yeah, I got to up the game. Get in front of it. Get in front of it. Okay. Get in front of it and really start to think about what does my brand look like? And when it comes to my style. And some questions that can help you start to think about this are very simple ones. What are 3 words you would use to describe your brand? What are 3 words that you would use to describe you, who you are? What are 3 words you would use to describe the style you desire? When you enter spaces, how do you want to feel? Right? This is all about you, okay? And the impact that you're going to have on others. So be able to describe it and be descriptive, get into it, okay? Like, yes, you want to be a boss, you want to be confident, right? But do you want to have some quiet confidence? Do you want to be more forthright, right? In your presence and in your style, right? Is it a boldness you're going for? Is it more quiet luxury you're going for? Right? Like, what is it? Is it classic? Is it super sophisticated? Are you going for a cosmopolitan vibe? Right? Do you want to have just an away girl relatability? Like, what do you want? Who are you? Begin to start asking yourself these questions, and these are things that directly connect to your wardrobe. All right. It impacts the colors you select, all these pieces. All right. So give some intentional thought to your appearance, especially as you're thinking about where you want your career to go, where you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years, and what kinds of small changes you can make in your image and your wardrobe and appearance now that are going to reflect who she is. So break out that mood board, break out that Canva, break out that Pinterest, the Instagram, and identify the people who you are like style-wise, embody the energy that you desire for yourself. Yes, companies should be investing, okay? That's something that I'll talk about. All right. Because if you work for a company and you are literally the spokesperson, you are on panels, you are going to conferences, you are doing recruiting, you are doing PR, you are going to conferences, events, like you are the front person representing the company. You have no choice about creating a brand. Because here's the other part. If you don't create it intentionally yourself, it will be created for you. People will form impressions. They will begin to say who you are. Okay. And when they're doing those things, 9 times out of 10, you are not in that room. They're just talking about you. So you want to make sure that what they're saying actually aligns with what you want them to think about you. And when you start to get to that space, when you know that and you enter with that kind of conviction, listen, When it comes time for the conversation about salary and compensation, you will pull the receipts and you will say, here are all the places that I have been visible and have been the spokesperson to represent the company and have represented them extremely well, has led to this deal, this transaction, this engagement, etc. I need a stipend when it comes to my wardrobe and my image. Okay? Changes the conversation. All right? So appearance is a key element to think about. The second is body language. All right? Your body language. What are you doing with your hands, your eyes, your posture? Right? Posture and eye contact are probably the two spaces that people struggle with the most when it comes to body language. And then, of course, your actual body and your mannerisms. But something as simple as your posture and standing up straight and not slouching and not leaning on one foot, all of these things impact your message and how you communicate, because people are very observant. And a lot of times the message and what you're talking about, it can get overshadowed by what people see visually, because the visual is the first impact. That's the thing that starts to transmit thousands of computations of what we think about someone, all those impressions that people talk about. So it happens visually first. That's why appearance and body language are so important. You want to make sure that that is saying the same message as what you're saying verbally. And it's too many times that there's a disconnect for folks. So you might feel confident about knowing your skill set, but when you get into the space and you're in front of the recruiter or you're in front of the VP, you get nervous, right? You get nervous, and those mannerisms of pulling on your hair, or biting your teeth, or fidgeting with your ear, all those things start kicking in, right? And you are like, Lord have mercy, I'm blowing it. Right? It's natural for us to have uncomfortable moments in some of these things that begin to happen. But you can actively work on what it is that you can do to understand what happens with you in terms of your body language, recognize it, and then pivot away from it. Okay? So these are things you want to practice. Get together with some colleagues and practice these things. Like I talked about this at a workshop that I did for career development at the top of February. You really want to find, especially when you're in like-minded communities with other women who are wanting to excel and do well in their careers, get together, all right, and do a mock interview with them and let them give feedback about what they noticed about your behaviors, what they noticed about the way you were communicating. Okay, if you maybe you have some trusted managers from a previous position, right? Ask them, like, hey, I need to run through some scenarios in practice for an upcoming interview that I have or an upcoming presentation, because I really want this to go well and I'm nervous about like my mannerisms and I just really want to practice. You got to do what you need to do to get strong in the areas that you're not strong in. Okay? Yeah, people make a bunch of assumptions about who you are from your appearance and your mannerisms and how you move. And it's not about fairness, because listen, fairness exited the door in this world a long time ago. It is about understanding what happens and then being in a position of power for yourself to take control of the narrative and say, no, 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 this is who I am. Yeah, sometimes I get nervous, but I'm a human being and it happens. But I'm recognizing that. And so, as much as I am nervous right now and I'm fidgeting with my hair, etc., like I'm going to take a beat because I've practiced this, and I'm going to pause, and then I'm going to begin to speak and try to talk and communicate my intentions from more of a relaxed state. So there's something too about, as the more you practice these things, just an awareness that gets increased and heightened, because just as much as your body language is something that's interpreted from others while you're speaking, because oftentimes when people are speaking publicly, whether it is being on a stage at an event or simply raising your hand, right, and sharing an idea in a meeting, or being at a networking event, all these different spaces that make you feel uncomfortable to begin to speak and talk about who you are. So sometimes you might shy away and move to the back, or you're just not sure and you're in your head thinking about all of these different things. But I promise you that the more you actually go into those spaces to practice and to get better, the more you're going to be more aware of what you do and have spaces to improve, right? Like you can't shy away from this if you're giving yourself a rating and you're like, Nana, I am so red when it comes to body language because I have all of these nervous tics. That doesn't mean that you shy away from it and you're like, that's the reason why I never network. No, absolutely not. That's the reason why you need to be going to at least 2 networking events a quarter, so you can be practicing, okay, to get better, because that's the only way you're going to do it. There's one statistic that, for me, when I heard about this rule, I was like, now hold on, what are we really talking about here? But I don't know if any of you all have heard of the 7-38-55 rule. And so this rule is a concept that talks about the messages that we communicate. And it basically says that 7%, only 7% of what people receive from us when we are speaking and talking, 7% comes from what we actually say. So 7% comes from the words. 38% comes from the tone of our voice. So how we're projecting, how we're talking, right? Whether it's abrupt, whether it's tart, whether it's sweet, whether we can't hear you because you're talking low, 38% comes from tone. 55% of the message that you communicate is coming from your body language. So for the message you communicate, 55%, over half, is coming from what you are doing with your body, your posture, your eye contact, your mannerisms with your hand. That's what people are looking at when you are communicating, over 50%. Then 7% is coming from what you're actually saying. I was like, now hold on. This is also a very terrible statistic. You can really understand how people don't listen, right? But also you begin to understand what they're looking at. So knowing that, you really want to give some intentional energy to making sure that your body language is really what you want it to be, and that it is consistent and aligned with the message you communicate. Okay? Yes. Yep. Do what you can to give yourself an edge. 100%, Portia. So the C in our ABCDs is communication. We've already been chatting about communication, but this is vital, y'all. It is so vital for you to be able to speak cogently, clearly, and confidently about who you are. Okay? To be able to do something as simple as sharing an idea in a team meeting in a way that is clear, so people understand your point or perspective, is everything. And for you to do it, again, being mindful of your body language and your tone, because as we know, that makes up like almost 90% of the message and the communication that you're actually saying and delivering. That makes up what people are receiving, what they're actually paying attention to. So when you think about communicating, this is, in your communication skills, this is something that isn't just about public speaking on a main stage and doing a TED Talk. That is huge. And if you have aspirations for that, you won't go ahead and get a coach. Okay. I know one. Her name's Rhonda Khan. She's great. But also, you want to be thinking about those other small moments that are happening on a day-to-day basis in the team meeting, right? The after work events, right? The team sessions where you have the opportunity to learn and mix and meet other folks at your organization or your company, right? These are all spaces to communicate. So I can't tell you how many times really important opportunities happen, not when you're all suited and booted at a networking event, but it really happens when you go to lunch with somebody, or you might be at the company function and you strike up a conversation with someone because you have, I don't know, a mutual interest in basketball, or you're both into knitting. Child, I'm just making up hobbies at this point. But my point is that people are looking for connection. Okay. People are looking for connection and a way to actually have something that makes them feel something when they interact and engage with someone. So when you're communicating, you want to know your story, you want to know yourself, and you want to be able to speak from a place of knowledge and confidence. Being highly, highly aware of that and where you fall short is huge. So sometimes, sometimes too, when we're in spaces, you might be one of those people who either is always ready to reply and respond. So someone says something and you're already in your head thinking about like, no, that idea is dumb. We should be doing something else. And you're so quick to engage. Communication is a two-way street. So you need to be actively listening in order to actively share something of value. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to actively listen. And it's so interesting if you notice people who get higher in the chain within leadership. I find that the folks who are the sharpest and on point, they are amazing listeners. They ask dope questions. And when they share information, it's sweet and concise. And they say that one gem that changes your life. And you're like, well, wow. They don't have to speak for extensive, long periods of time, but they know when they do speak, you listen and you pay attention, right? You actually can't wait to hear from them, right? That's a skill. That's something that they've worked on. That's not just something like you have it or you don't. Okay. These are things that you can actually give intentional energy and training to get better at. Okay. Listen, 55% on that body language. That 738 rule, 738-55 rule took me out. I was like, what? Yes, and 100% hire Coach Rhonda Khan because she'll change your life in the public speaking space. So when you're thinking about your communication skills and how that relates to your brand, that's everything. How are you going to tell people about who you are? Right? What's the quintessential 30-second elevator pitch? Your value proposition. What makes you unique? What are your skills? When you get that love it or hate it question, tell me a little bit about yourself. What you gonna say? You need to just know that off the back of your hand. All right. You need to know what you're gonna say in that space when you're asked that question, whether it's on an interview or just sitting at lunch with someone. Okay. So again, I love to tell people low-hanging fruit to practice with friends, to practice with other colleagues. There are definitely organizations like Toastmasters that you can join so that you can get a little bit more formal training and actually be in a group of others who actively want to improve their communication skills as well. So, there are so many different ways. And now online, YouTube, there are so many different videos and things that you can watch. But hopefully, as I'm going through and sharing these things, you're giving yourself that red, yellow, green rating to really understand, where do I need to be putting energy into because I'm not confident in this. And communication is a non-negotiable. All right. Okay. And then last but not least is your digital presence. You will be Googled. Everyone is going to get Googled. All right. You are going for the job, a new job. You're going for a promotion. Like, when people meet you, they don't know who you are. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to Google your name, or they're going to look you up on LinkedIn, especially if it's a professional opportunity. All right. They might be looking you up on Instagram as well, right? People want to learn about who you are. We are in a digital age. Okay. So Google yourself, Google your name. What comes up? Go to the images tab. What are the pictures? If you don't like those pictures, might want to make a change, might need a new headshot. Okay. But you want to be aware of what comes up about who you are. These are all pieces that connect to building that brand. All right. That is literally what you are, who you are digitally. And people are going to get that story before they often, they're going to get that digital story of you before they have a deep conversation about you. You're going to have an interview and they've got your name. They're going to Google your name. They're going to Google your name before they even decide whether you're going to get the interview. Let's keep it real. Okay. So what comes up? All right. You got my girl, Portia Obang. She is the LinkedIn guru. If you need help about understanding how to transform your LinkedIn profile so that it's telling a very sound story about your experience and showcasing your skill sets so that you can be consistent about that brand, she's your girl. All right. If you don't have a profile picture, if you're hiding and scared because you're like, I don't know, you're really overthinking it. Okay. She don't give you a good kick in the pants. But that's a very simple thing that you can do, is just simply uploading a great picture of yourself to give people that visual introduction into who you are. All right. And there's a post that I did about, I think I did 2 series of this post about 4 different elements that you can include for tips about your headshot. So if you need that help, if you need help with your headshot pics, just DM me the word headshot and I will send you a link to that particular post that I did. Okay. So you want to be aware of your digital presence. As simple as on these social media platforms. Obviously, if you have a website as well, you want to be intentional about the messages you're communicating there. But understand that what you have online is telling a story. And when people meet you in person, they want that story to be the same. Right? Also understand that when people Google you, they do want to see something. Okay. I can't tell you how many times I might meet someone and I Google them and I'm like, where you at? Like, I'm like, is this you? Like, it's like, I'm like, I'm not sure. And there's not a lot of images coming up, not a lot of articles, links, nothing. I can't find this person. I start to be like, I don't know, might be a bot, might not be a real individual. Right? Like, it's wild, but think about that experience even for yourself. Put yourself on the other end of it. Okay. Listen. Okay. I mean, fortunately, you will let people know, like, come on, you need to get this LinkedIn profile situation together and correct. Okay. But understand seriously that all of these pieces are telling a really cohesive story. And the bottom line is, when it comes to your brand, it is speaking, it is talking, it is communicating, it is sending messages on your behalf all the time. And hopefully you're in a position where you can verbalize and vocalize and talk about the message and who you are and what you do and the impact you make and who you serve and what you're talented, et cetera, et cetera. But there are plenty of times that people will simply be Googling you. They'll just be doing their due diligence. Okay. They will just see you at an event. They might hear you speak up in a meeting. They might not even introduce themselves or talk to you at all, right? But they're just observant. People are very observant, all right? They might Google your name, they go to your LinkedIn profile, see if there's anything there of note, right? But they're really observing you. And it's those kinds of interactions that when it comes to, especially when it comes to getting promotions and things of that nature, that, you know, it's so ironic that there's literally a room of people. You ain't in that room, but they've got your name. They're going through all of your accomplishments, right? Maybe you did an interview with one person, or you did an interview with all of them, and you've prepared things and you've stated your case. Sometimes not. Well, usually if you're only going for like a partner or C-suite level, do those kinds of those kinds of processes exist. But you might simply just want to be a senior manager or a manager, right? And there are people in a room making this decision about you, and you're not in that room. You're not in the room. But they are taking into consideration all the things about the brand that you have built, all the things around your performance and your presence, what you do exceptionally well, and what are the spaces that make you unique from others. So when you're thinking about that space that makes you unique, think about your appearance, your body language, your communication, your digital presence, and the story, the cohesive story that you are telling through your image, because that is literally a really key component about translating your brand. And it's speaking volumes in the rooms that you're not in. Okay? All right, y'all, that is my word for this Good Wednesday. If this was helpful, please definitely let me know in the chat and in the comments. Hey, Denise, I'm glad you enjoyed the session. And definitely know if you feel comfortable dropping the comments, do that. If not, and you want to send me a DM, that is awesome too. But let me know which of these ABCDs is a space where you feel like you need the most support when it comes to your personal image and brand. I'd love to know. All right. I hope you all have a fabulous rest of the day, and I will see you next Wednesday. Peace.